Hello everyone, welcome to Ian's Bricks, and I'm here today to talk about the results of my recent trip to Tunbridge-Wells, or Royal Tunbridge-Wells. There was a brick festival there and I was there as a trader, and I have to say it was a very, very successful event sales-wise. So I just really want to talk about a little bit about the event, how it went, sets that I took, sets that sold, sets that didn't sell, and I will be at the end of the video disclosing how much I made at the show, how much I took, and also what my profit margins were as well. I think this was the first brick festival that had been held at Royal Tunbridge-Wells. They used a sports hall. I think it was called the Tunbridge-Wells Sports Centre. I'd been to Tunbridge-Wells many years ago. There's a very famous area called the Pantiles, which is sort of full of these older sort of quirky little shops and things. It's quite a nice little area. The actual sports centre was a little bit further north in the town. It's not an area I know particularly well, but it is quite a long drive away from where I live. So I'd made the decision to stay over. So I got myself a Premier Inn in a nearby town. It was about 10 minutes drive away from the venue. Even though that eats into my profits, it did make it a lot easier for me. I was able to drive over on the Saturday night. My car obviously was already fully loaded with all the Lego that I was taking to the show, but it just meant I could drive in the Saturday evening when there wasn't much traffic around. You've got to go around the M25 if you sort of know sort of where the Tunbridge-Wells is in comparison to where I live in Hampshire. So it's a little bit of a drive, but it was fine. I got to the hotel, had a pretty good night's sleep. Yes, I woke up a bit early, but it just meant I could go straight to the venue. It was actually quite early at the venue as well. Now, unfortunately, it was drizzly rain on this particular day. It wasn't a very nice day. I did manage to get my car parked up at the venue. Brick Festival always send out a sort of a map to where to go, where to park, where to unload, all this kind of stuff. So we'd already got that information. It was just sort of a normal day. Some of the traders were already there, have a bit of chat to them and unpack the car. So my car was absolutely packed to the gunnels, as it always is at these brick shows. I want to obviously try and get as many sets as I can to this particular show. As well as the sets I'd taken to the show, I'd also taken a couple of other sets as well. So I've had these modular greengrocer sets for quite some time now, 15 years or so. Somebody that had bought Lego from me in the past at shows and things like that, and met me outside of shows, expressed an interest. Some friends of his wanted to buy greengrocers, so we sorted all that out. So although I took those two greengrocers down, I actually gave them to this guy before the show, so I'm not counting those greengrocers as sort of part of my profit and loss for that particular show, simply because if I hadn't have taken them to that show, I probably would have just met this guy at another time outside of a show and made the sales anyway. So I didn't want to count them as part of the show. So if you saw my video on the day of where I'd actually said, oh, these are the greengrocers, I'm not including those greengrocers in my overall totals, because it would have probably skewed my figures as well, profits and things like that, and takings of the day. It would have made it a little bit unfair on sort of other shows and probably wouldn't have averaged itself out. So just to make you aware that I won't be including those greengrocer sales in all of my figures. So in total, I managed to pack my car with a total of 184 Lego sets. So what I mean by sets, they are boxed sets, anything from the sort of little tiny promo sets that you can get to the sort of the bigger sets, that some of the larger sets that I had taken with me on the day. So the variety of different sets within there, but 184 sets in total. On top of those sets, I did actually take quite a few poly bags as well. I didn't count up how many poly bags I took. I just sort of took an extra bag of stuff. The reason I took some extra sets was because last time at Portsmouth, a week prior, I'd kind of sold out of a lot of stuff quite early, and my table was looking a bit bare. So I had some poly bags from an old show from last year, which were already priced and labelled up. I thought, great opportunity, just take the bag, shove it in my footwell of my car, and I took also some road plates as well. I had some base plates and road plates, most of which had already, again, been priced and labelled up, and they were just extra things that I took with me to the show, and it actually worked out really well, because when my table did get bare, I was able to put these extra sort of poly bags and road plates on my table, and it filled my table up, and quite a few of them did sell as well. So as well as 184 sets, I took quite a few poly bags, didn't count them all. There were 17 different plates and base plates and road plates as well. in total on the day, I actually sold 95 of those box sets. So pretty much more than half. There were 89 sets left. There were some duplicate sets left and quite a few other things on the table. So there were a few sets left, but it certainly was. I did sell a lot, and I sold quite a lot of the larger sets as well. So most of the sets that I had left were generally the medium to smaller size sets, quite a few dimension sets as well, which don't take up a lot of space. So it did mean at the end of the day there wasn't really very much to pack away. In total, I sold 7 of the 17 Rodin base plates, and there were also a total of 15 poly bags that I sold. I did manage to keep a track of the poly bags that I actually sold on the day. Poly bags for me are always going to be a sort of small side of what I sell at these shows. They're not worth very much money. You know, there are just a few quid here and there, but again, it's just nice to have something to put on your table to sort of fill up any spaces as and when you sell a lot of the larger sets which I'd actually sold. So sales wise it was pretty good. So that meant in total there were 117 sort of sets, so sets, plates and poly bags. There were 117 sort of total transactions. Obviously some people buy more than one thing, so for me that's not bad. And don't forget, I've only ever got 2 front tables and 1 backing table, and it is just me doing that. And as I say, quite a lot of those sets that I did sell were generally on the larger side, so I think that's pretty good going. And as shows go, I say it was a very, very successful event. Some of the sets that I sold quite a lot of, so whenever I go to these shows, I quite often have just one of each set, but there are also some times where I take more than one set. Things that did particularly well: the green base plates. I had 5 of them. These were, I think these were from a previous show. I know I'd taken base plates to other shows as well. I was scrabbling around in my loft, in my attic, trying to get sets to take to the show, and I just suddenly found this bag and I'd kind of forgotten about it. So I took 5 green base plates and I basically charged £7 each. I was humming and hawing what to charge for these. Literally every single one of them sold at £7. Now you can buy base plates from Lego for £7.99 each, so they were obviously a little, £1 cheaper, but only £1 cheaper than normal Lego prices. The ones that I had were in the plastic bags. They are doing them in paper bags now. Whether that makes a difference, I don't know. But yeah, they all. I didn't put them out until later on either, until there was obviously a space and a gap. And they all sold really, really quickly. So they sold. I also sold what I call my cheap sets. So whenever I go to these shows, I always try to have some sets which are currently available, which I've obviously managed to get at a discount, but then I still put them on my table at a lower than recommended retail price. So there were 3 of the retro 3-in-1 cameras. I sold 3 of those. I took 3, sold all 3, and they sell for £15 each. Normally recommended retail for those is £18, as is the Simba set. I had 4 of those Simba sets, the small Simba sets, and again I sold them for £15 each. Recommended retail was £18. So they're always popular, those little sets, those sort of smaller sets, slightly cheaper sets as well. And I am always sort of do put a little label on there saying recommended retail price. I also managed to sell 3 of my Bane Dimension sets. So I've got quite a few of these Bane Dimension sets. They're one of the less popular figures of all the Dimension sets that I got. I've got quite a few of them left. Whenever I sort of was winning these auction hauls to get these Dimension sets, for whatever reason, every single one came with a few of the Bane sets. Now, I'd had these on previously, I think at maybe £10, £8. The last show I know there was £7, and they weren't, I'd sold 1 or 2, but not very many. So I made the decision to put them down to £5. I took 4 of the Bane sets and I sold 3 of them at £5. So yeah, it's probably not any profit in those for me from what I actually paid for them in the day, but at least I'm managing to sort of get rid of them now. So I'll probably just continue to have those Bane sets on at £5 now until they go, because I have still got a few of those left. Let's just talk, obviously I've talked a little bit about what I took and what sold. I want to talk a bit about the venue as well. So the venue, the sports centre at Tunbridge-Wells, I'd read the stats coming through from Brick Festival. They'd sold quite a lot of tickets quite early on. So what Brick Festival do is they release windows. So they have 10 o'clock early bird tickets, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and so on. So they will normally, at the start of an event, when they first do ticket sales, they'll have early bird at 10 and 11 o'clock, and they do a mixture of adult, children and family tickets for the 11 o'clock onwards tickets. They'd sold out of the 11 o'clock and the 12 o'clock tickets some time ago. I mean, I'm talking 12 o'clock tickets went sort of over 2 weeks ago. So I knew it would be a very busy event. There were still some 10 o'clock early bird tickets still available on the day, but you would expect that most of those had gone as well. So I knew it would be a busy show. The venue itself was brilliant. It was a nice big hall, loads and loads of space. There was loads of space between the tables. There was a mobile signal, so I could take my credit card payments. I'm on 3, which is one of the different phone sort of signal brands that you have over here in the UK. And it was a little bit hit and miss. I had 4G most of the day, no 5G at all, and no other phones. Networks had much better signals than I did. It did work. I had a couple of little dodgy moments, but it was generally okay. So it did work. So you do find sometimes in these big metal sports halls that you just don't get a great signal. But anyway, so that was sort of there. That did work. So the venue itself was really, really good. It was tennis courts actually, and it was at the back of the sports centres. You had the main sports centre, and behind all of that was where the tennis courts were. Now you could get to the tennis courts from the main centre. There was a bridge that went over, but they'd actually locked one of the doors. I know that because I tried to get through there and I got to where I wanted to be, and the doors are all locked. There's a big chain on the door, so I had to walk all the way back and all the way outside in the rain, all the way back round. So most of the people that were coming to the show were obviously queuing in the building. There was like a walkway where people were queuing, but that queue then stretched outside, and of course it was raining. It wasn't very warm. It wasn't a very nice day. I don't know what the problem was on the day, but Brick Festival just didn't seem to manage to get people through the doors particularly quickly. I know when I've been to shows before, we did Southampton last year, they had a holding area which was great because people were able to wait, and they just sort of let people in and everybody came in quite quickly. I think maybe they checked tickets beforehand, but for whatever reason, and I wasn't really aware of it at the time, it wasn't until later on when people were coming in saying, oh, we've been waiting outside for 45 minutes, or I had 11 o'clock tickets and I wasn't able to get in for 45 minutes, and there was no parking. Again, with the parking, Brick Festival had actually put on their site that there was plenty of parking. Now, I'd had a look at Google Maps and I sort of saw there was some parking at the sports centre, but there wasn't loads of parking. It's not like they had a multi-storey car park or anything. And I looked at the roads around the area as well, and it was all sort of residential, one big main road through, and there weren't sort of even many side streets where people could gone as well. And apparently the parking and the traffic situation was horrendous. I did actually take a snapshot on my phone on Google Maps as to what the traffic was like on the day, and there were just 2 big red lines, one going towards the sports centre, one going the other way to the sports centre. So if you do live in Tunbridge-Wells and were affected by this and wondered what the heck was going on, it was partly the Brick Festival, but apparently next door to the sports centre there was some kind of school which had this sort of outdoory sports centre, and there was I think it was a hockey tournament, somebody said, not ice hockey, but like field hockey, and so there were all these people trying to get to this event as well as the Brick Festival, and so apparently it was an absolute nightmare. So if you did go to the show, and I did see some pictures on social media afterwards of big long queues outside. There were quite a few people having a moan. I get that it's annoying when you go to these things. So I just think it probably could have been organised a little bit better. Maybe too many tickets were sold in the individual time slots. But what that did mean for us, the vendors, that basically the event was packed out all day. And it was interesting that even at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, normally these shows will start to peter out after 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It'll get quieter, you'll have a chance to chat to the vendors. Didn't happen at all. It was literally just constantly busy all day, and there were a few people who were very, very nice to me. Obviously it's not my fault about the venue. People were coming up and saying, oh, we've been waiting outside for, I had 11 o'clock tickets, I didn't get in till 11:45, 12 o'clock, and all this kind of stuff. So I don't think a lot of people had a great experience. So it is a shame that it was maybe tarnished a few people's ideas of the Brick Festival as well, because we do try very, very hard as vendors. We get up early in the morning, we've got to lug all these boxes around, display all of the sets, pack it all away at the end of the day. Yeah, it's great that we took quite a lot of money on the day, but it is a little bit disappointing that maybe it wasn't slightly better organised. So maybe it was just the venue, maybe the style of the venue, maybe they didn't get any help from the sports centre. I really don't know what went on. It'd be interesting to sort of hear other people's sort of views about maybe why it was such an issue on the day. So that was the only really negative from me, is that people did have a little bit of a problem with that. There was one time during the day as well. Normally people are very, very good and very friendly and very nice, and not that anything sort of kicked off or anything, but there was a sort of a slightly awkward situation where I think it was sort of it was after 11 o'clock, and I'd sold quite a few things, and that was great. And we had this lady come up to me, an American lady, and she had a couple of sets in her hands. And one of the sets was one of the Harry Potter banner sets. Now, I'd had these Harry Potter banner sets on my stall for an hour and a half. Nobody had even looked at them. They were towards the back of my stall, near the larger sets. Nobody had even looked at them. So she came over with, I think, a promo set. I think it was the flowers, the flower pot, and one of the banners. And she said, I want to buy the flower set. She talked about the flower set, and then, have you got all of these? So, yes, there's 4 of them, and I've got all 4 of them. She says, I'd like to buy all 4. So as I then looked up, there was another lady that literally had 2 of the other sets in her hand. I think it was the Gryffindor and possibly the Ravensclaw. Can't remember which one. I think the American lady had bought over the Hufflepuff, so it was particularly the Gryffindor. So she had these 2 in her hand, and I sort of went to look for them. I saw this lady had 2 in her hand. I picked the other one up, and I said, were you going to buy those, because I've got a lady over here that's interested in buying all 4, like the set of 4. And this woman sort of looked at me, and she did have them in her hand, to be fair, and you can't, if someone's picked them up and actually, was looking at them, and she said, I was going to buy the Gryffindor one. So I said to the American lady, I says, look, this lady here has got these 2. She's not too bothered about one of them, but she definitely wants a Gryffindor. And the other lady, the American lady, was sort of like, that's the one that I wanted most of all. It's for my granddaughter, kind of thing. So it was kind of a bit of an awkward situation. I said, look, I'm really sorry. This lady does have them in her hand, even though you said you want them. You kind of didn't bring them over to me. So it was just a little bit. It was a bit of a shame, really. And quite often at these shows, I will have duplicates of things. It so happened that I didn't have any duplicates of that. In the end, the lady, the American lady, did actually buy the 3 sets and the flower pot set, and the other lady did buy the Gryffindor one. So they all did sell. It was just sort of slightly annoying from my perspective that I do have more of these at home. Again, I'm trying to bring a range of things. I don't want to bring too many duplicates, but also the fact that nobody really had looked at those sets until that particular time. And if the lady had actually picked up the 4 sets or said to me, I want those 4, can you get them for me? I would have done that as well, but there was a big crowd by my table. She picked up a couple of sets that she could manage, bought them over, and then it just so happened that somebody else started looking at them. So these things happen. It didn't turn nasty or anything like that. Both parties were actually very, very amicable about it, and I sort of tried to diffuse the situation as best I could. But just one of those things that happen. So if ever you do go to a show and you see something that you like, probably pick it up and hang on to it, just in case. You can always change your mind and put it back again. But yeah, maybe have a word with the vendors or whoever, just to sort of let them know that you want those sets, because you never know what's going to happen. Just backtracking a little bit as well to the start of the show, and I forgot to mention this. I actually do a video before. Normally I try and do a video the day before I go to these events, showcasing some of the sets that I'm actually taking with me. This has worked reasonably well in the past, but I think it was particularly noticeable at this event. I literally had people, as soon as they came through the door at 10 o'clock, they were literally just making a beeline for my stall, because they'd obviously seen the sets that I'd got for sale. They'd seen the prices as well, because I do try and show the prices wherever possible if I've got time to do that beforehand. And there were literally about 5 or 6 people literally came over straight to my table, bought the things that they wanted, saw on my table. So I had a really, really busy sort of first 15, 20 minutes where literally people were just buying some of the bigger sets as well. So if you're one of those people, thank you very much. It really is, appreciated. And I know I sort of do these videos. Sometimes I don't realise the impact that these videos do have. So it is quite an important thing for me to do these sort of pre-videos where I sort of show what I'm taking, because from my point of view, people can see what I've got. They know that I look after sets as well, and they're normally very, very good quality, and boxes and things are all in very good quality. So thank you to everybody that sort of made a beeline for my store first thing. It was very, very, very kind. I know I did get a few messages from a few other people later in the day saying they came over to my stall and I was just too busy, and maybe they didn't want to buy anything, but yeah, they wanted to come over and have a chat. And if you were one of those that didn't manage to get over to see me, I do apologise, but as you could see, it was a very, very busy day in that hall. So yeah, thank you to everybody that bought from me, especially early on, because that was good. And it was noticeable, again, because people were having to wait a long time to get in to the festival. I think it was noticeable how busy it stayed late on. As I say, normally these shows die down about sort of 1-2 o'clock, but even at 3 o'clock it was just so busy still. So many people. I mean, I was on my feet all day. I was absolutely shattered at the end of it. My poor little feet hurt, but it's all good. I mean, I shouldn't really complain, because I had some really dud shows last year where I didn't make any money at all, so it was just really, really good to sort of get a good show under my belt. So let's talk about some of the sets that I sell. I'm going to try and rattle through these quite quickly. These are some of the larger sets, sort of over £100 that actually sold on the day. 10292, the Friends Apartment, that went for £280. 10254, the Winter Train, for £220, and also £220 on 71395. That's the Nintendo Cube. That actually sold right at the end of the day. That was to one of the other traders' daughters. He came over to me, said, just don't put everything away, keep that Nintendo Cube. My daughter's going to come over and buy that once the event had closed. So thank you very much for that. That's much appreciated. That was a nice little sort of bonus right at the end of the day. Also, that I sold 76408, 12 Grimmauld Place from Harry Potter. That was 190 that went for. 75178, the BB-8 from Star Wars, that went for £145. 21017, the Imperial Hotel, that was from the Architecture range. That sold for £140. I took that to my last show at £145, and it didn't sell any of the Architecture sets last time. And I did have a rethink and a reprice of those. And actually, it was one guy that bought an Imperial Hotel, a Trevi Fountain, and a Flatiron, one of my subscribers. So hello to you. Thank you very much for buying those sets. I think he wanted to buy the Nintendo as well, but I think he couldn't justify buying all those things. So again, a collector of the Architecture range, so it was really, really good that I had those sets available. They were all in really good quality as well. Even though I got them from an auction, they were all very, very good. With regards to the Trevi Fountain, I actually took two of those Trevi Fountains, 21020. Now, I had them on at my last show at £160. The reason it was so high is that previously those sets had actually sold for quite a lot of money. You're talking, some of them were selling for upwards of £200 plus. But I think since Lego have released that they will be releasing another version of the Trevi Fountain, a bigger version, it's going to be more expensive actually. It's going to be £140, I think, whereas the original was the original Architecture was much less than that. But obviously that's gone up in value since then. And I had them on 160, and I just thought, oh, okay, maybe because of the new set coming out, these aren't going to sell. So I actually repriced them down quite a bit to £125. So the recommended retail price of the new set is going to be 140, and I thought at 125 I want to keep it below that, because obviously it's going to be less than the new set, and it worked because I sold both of them at the particular show. So two of those Trevi Fountains for 125 each. And so, yeah, that kind of made sense to sort of reduce that price. So obviously less profit for me, but at least I managed to sell those sets on to some happy customers who are obviously going to build them as well, so that's always good. Other sets I sold, 10277, the Crocodile Locomotive, that was £120, as also was 76989, the Horizon Forbidden West, 120, and also 910037, the Mushroom House from the Bricklink Designer series, that sold for 120 as well. Again, to another one of my viewers and subscribers, so hello to you, thank you for buying that. I also sold 10497, the Galaxy Explorer, that was £110, and finally, final mention would be 76393, the Harry Potter buildable figures, and that sold for 99, so just under the 100. And there were plenty of other sales. Well, I can't go through every single thing that I sold, but there were some of the bigger sets. There are obviously sets that you don't sell during the day. One of the sets, my biggest set that I had with me, was at 910029, and that was the Bricklink Designer Mountain Fortress. I had that on at £390. It didn't sell on the day, but interestingly, talking to a vendor later on in the day, he'd sold his, and apparently somebody else had sold theirs as well, and I think theirs went for a little bit less than mine, so maybe I need to have a rethink on my price of that one. So I will probably take it to my next show and probably have a slightly lower price on that one to see if that will sell on, but it is a very, very big set, takes up a lot of room. Also, another set that was left, and I was surprised about this because I had loads of people looking at it, was 21326. It was the Winnie the Pooh idea set. Now, I did have it on £120, which is probably a little bit more than I have in the past, but they have started to creep up in value now. Loads of people were picking it up, looking at it, but nobody bought it, but never mind. Another one that didn't sell was 75335. That was the BD1 from Star Wars, and that was on £120. That didn't sell. And also 21304, it was the Ideas Doctor Who set. Again, I had that on quite a high price, £180. It didn't sell. The Doctor Who sets have been interesting because I had a couple of these earlier last year, and they literally were, and I was selling them for the same price, and they were selling straight away. But for whatever reason, this Doctor Who, I've had it for a few shows now, and it doesn't seem to be selling. So the problem is I paid quite a lot of money for it, so there's not a lot of, even at 180, there's not a lot of profit in that for me. So hopefully I'll take it to more shows and eventually it will probably sell. So that's just a little snapshot of some of the sets which didn't sell. Obviously there were lots of other smaller sets that didn't sell either, but I can't go through everything. So I know what you want to know is what I actually took on the day. So here are some of the statistics of some of the prices which I made for the day. So in total, my total takings for the day, this is sort of gross takings without any deductions, I took £4,871. That for me is a very, very successful show. I think takings wise on the day, that is my third best ever show, and it just beat the previous week, which was my Portsmouth show. I think I took 4695 on that one, so I did beat that one, and that was really that very, very last sale of that Nintendo question mark cube that just took me over that sort of and made me beat my Portsmouth total. So that was really, really good to get a higher amount than the previous show a week before. Of that, £1,502 was in cash, so that's 31% of my takings were cash, and £3,369 were taken by card, which is 69%. Normally you tend to find it's about 25-75%, so I did take a little bit more cash than I probably normally would have. I did notice earlier on a lot of people were paying by cash. I think people do still like to have cash. I think if you are a trader, I do think you need to have both kinds. I mean, it's all right just taking cash or just taking card, but I do think there are a lot of people that like to pay one way or the other, so it is good to have both options available for people. I think one person came over and said, oh, somebody else at another stall didn't want cash. I'd be like, no, I'll have your cash, thank you very much. I actually prefer cash because obviously there's no charges or anything with that. I can just put that straight in my bank and it's not a problem. So maybe people just don't like carrying large amounts of cash around. So yeah, it's just again one of those things. So it's very, very successful sales wise. However, there are deductions from that. Obviously, that's not all profit. By far, it's a long way off all being profit. So here are some of the things, or some of the costs, which I'd sort of got for the day. There are costs for the tables. So the tables that I have at the Brick Festival, they do cost me money to have. And that was £172 for those two tables and the backing table. So that's a fairly significant cost, especially if you're going to a show where you're not making much money. You can see why the cost of the tables can be quite high. But for a good show like that, didn't really matter. That was good. There are also fees for my card reader, so I use a SumUp card reader. Now, I will leave a link in the description to the SumUp card reader. I need one more person to sign up, and I get a nice little bonus. I think you get a bonus as well if you sign up. So I will leave a link in the description. If you want any more details from me, maybe just write in the comments of the video, or even in Instagram as well. Just write me some comments if you want to know more about the SumUp card. You will have to buy, obviously, the SumUp card reader, but yeah, there's a special little refer a friend thing, and I think if I sell one more to somebody else, and thank you to the people in the past that have bought them using my link as well. So I will leave a link for that. But yeah, the cost of the card is, for every transaction, it's 1.69%, which is quite a low amount, and that's why I quite like using that card. But it did mean on the amount that I took on the credit card, there was £56.94 went to credit card fees. So you have to bear that into mind as well for these shows. Petrol or gas to the show, obviously it's quite a long way to the venue for me. I used £38 worth of petrol to get to and from the event in my car. My car is quite economical, even when it's stacked full of boxes, but still £38, you've got to take these into account. Food, I didn't have much food. I'm terrible when I go to these events. I just eat junk food, and I know I shouldn't, but you just got to pick easy stuff. I'm very cheap as well. I only spent £14.40, and one of the reasons for that, I had a McDonald's on the way to the venue on the Saturday night, but McDonald's have this rewards thing where every time you use McDonald's you get points, and I had a load of points which I'd not used, so I literally got myself a free McDonald's meal on the way there, which means I didn't have to pay for that. So, but yes, there's still some costs for food, and I know during the day, if I was at home, I'd still be eating food, I'd still be drinking drink, but I wanted to include that as part of my deductions for this event, just to show you that I'm trying to include everything. There was also the cost of the hotel. Now, I would normally avoid trying to stay in a hotel just because of the costs involved, and especially on a Saturday night. So here in the UK, we have a couple of fairly decent hotel chains. Premier Inn and Travelodge are what I use quite a lot, but Saturday nights are always generally more expensive. I think a lot of people go away for weekends and will stay over on the Saturday night. So it did cost me £58 for the hotel. Totally worth it though. I have to say, I think I'm going to go to some of these events later in the year, and I think if I've got any sort of long distances, I'm probably going to do hotels. It depends when it is. I think as you get into the summer, it's easier because it's light early in the morning, you're driving in the light, and it makes it so much easier. But for me, it was definitely worth having the hotel at £58. It was definitely money well spent. Another cost I wanted to include were some plastic bags. So whenever I go to these shows, I always take plastic bags, and it was useful on this particular event because it was raining. People were buying Lego sets, quite expensive Lego sets, and if you just carry them out in the rain, you've got a long walk back to your car potentially. These sets are going to get wet, and rain on boxes isn't very good. So I always take plastic bags with me. Now, I'd actually sort of started to run out of some of the plastic bags at my previous show, so I spent £23.33 on different sizes of plastic bags, and although I didn't use all of those bags for that particular event, they were sort of my additional costs, as it were, for this particular event. I have stickers, I have ink for my printer. None of those needed replacing for this show, so I've just included what I bought for this particular show. It's quite difficult to sort of try and add up how much the cost of things like stickers and ink and when you're using parts of it. So I just wanted to include at least some things which I bought for the actual event. And of course there's the cost of the sets as well. So a lot of these sets that I'm taking to the shows, yes, there are some promo sets in there which didn't cost me anything, but most of the sets that I take now to these shows have actually cost me some money. I've obviously bought them from auctions or from Lego or from Amazon or wherever I've bought them in the past. So I always try and keep a check of when I buy something how much I pay for it. So of all of the sets that I took, that includes the poly bags, the 184 sets that I took, even the base plates and the row plates, they cost me £2,955.33. So that's quite a big chunk of what I was taking was cost of actual sets. So that's always worth bearing in mind. So of all of the deductions on there, my deductions in total were 3,318. So that's quite a big chunk of what I took on the day is actually has to be classed as a deduction. So what does that mean? So my net profit for the whole event was £1,553. Now that's very comparable to the previous show. At Portsmouth I made 1,604. It was on a similar kind of, I took a similar amount of money and all this kind of stuff. So it's comparable. So over the two shows I've done pretty well. But yeah, I mean, it's not all sort of singing from the rooftops. Yeah, it's great to take £4,871 in total, but there's a lot of costs, a lot of charges involved in that. Now, I will potentially have to pay extra on that as well. There's obviously the tax to think about. HMRC will want a report of what I've sold this year for next tax year, for this tax year, which I report next year. It's all very complicated. So there may be some money I have to pay for that, but also there's some extra revenue that I get. I obviously get a little bit of revenue from these YouTube channels as well. So that all sort of goes and probably cancels one and the other out. But yeah, I think 1,553 for a show is very, very good. I mean, I've had some shows last year where I didn't even take over £1,000, let alone £1,500. So to get that in actual profit is good. And of course, what that means for me is I can then buy more Lego sets and just keep the cycle going, really. For me, it's not really all about the profit. Yes, I am there to make money at these shows. Yes, it's disappointing when you have a quiet show and you don't make as much money. It's great when you have a fantastic show like Tunbridge-Wells. It really was a great show for sales-wise, it just sort of and I just enjoy the whole thing as well. I say a lot of people recognise me from YouTube, try and have a bit of a chat if they can, and even the people that don't know me, I just enjoy the interaction with people, and you've got to keep your eye on people. I remember there was kids tend to lean on tables. I don't know what it is. They're quite obviously, kids are smaller, and they go over to a table and they kind of lean on it, and they lean on the Lego sets. And in the past, I've always had my Lego sets right to the edge of the table. I've started moving them back a little bit, just by a small amount, and that gives then a lip on the table. But there's still kids that come over, and they're picking their nose and they're eating sweets and sticky fingers, and they're touching all the boxes. And some of the kids literally come to the table and go like that, and they're touching everything. And I know I don't wrap my sets up anymore, and I'd love to have the time to wrap all of my sets up in a nice plastic and have them all presented. But yeah, it can be annoying. I mean, I'm kind of ready to shout sometimes. There was one kid, he had a set that was worth like £70, and I'd kind of moved it forward. I always tried to have my more expensive sets to the back, but as the show had gone on, the set had worked its way forward. And he was just kind of like just doing that, and I was kind of glaring at him. I was just ready to sort of shout. So yeah, I will react if somebody's mishandling my Lego sets, because at the end of the day, somebody else has got to buy that, and I do pride myself in the quality and the look of the sets and things as well. So if you do, and I know it's difficult when you've got kids and you're trying to look after them and it's busy. I know it's very, very difficult, but yeah, you've always got to keep your eye on the stall and just make sure that nobody's been picking their nose or eating sweets beforehand and then touching all the boxes with greasy little fingers. So that's the only downside about this show, is I get a little bit too protective of some of my Lego sets. But more often than not, people are very, very nice. And again, even despite people I think had got a little bit grumpy on the day because they'd had to queue in the rain, and some of the organisation wasn't particularly the best for the day, people were still actually very, very nice and very kind and had a nice chat to me, and were still sort of willing to buy stuff as well. So obviously that's much appreciated. The next Brick Festival that I'll be going to will be the 23rd of March, and that's at Bournemouth. That's my local show. It's only 25 minutes down the road, so I'm really looking forward to that show, as I always do. That's at the Bournemouth International Centre. But the next event that I'm going to will be Bricktastic. That's being held in Manchester at the Manchester Central. It's kind of an arena type thing. I will be there on the Saturday, the 22nd of February. That's next Saturday. I'll be there in the morning. My ticket's for 9 a.m. I've got an early bird ticket, so hopefully I'll be able to get round and do all my videos beforehand, and then I'll be hanging around probably till mid to early afternoon, to just sort of wandering around, chatting to people, hopefully it's going to be a nice calm event for me. I know when I normally go to these events as a trader, it can be quite a manic day for me, so it's going to be quite nice to see the other side of things as a punter. So yes, if you are there on the Saturday the 22nd of February, I will be there. Do come over to say hello, and it'd be nice to have a chat if you are there. And probably while I'm in Manchester as well, I'll probably have a quick look at the Lego stores that are in Manchester as well. So another Lego weekend next weekend for me. But what I'll do as well is I'll leave a list of all the shows currently that I'm down to attend, because I get a lot of people saying, are you going to this show, are you going to that show? Most of them are in the south and of the UK, of England, I'm afraid. I know a lot of people want me to go further north, but there are so many shows now in the south, it doesn't really make sense for me to travel 4 or 5 hours for a show. I mean, even this trip to Manchester this coming weekend, it's a long way for me to travel. It's 5+ hours, and yeah, it's all right if I'm just sort of going and not trading, but if I'm trading for the day, it makes it a very long day. So apologies if you live outside the south of England to not go into any events a little bit further north, but I'll leave a link anyway. You never know, you might be able to get to one of the shows later on in the year if you're reasonably local to one of those shows. So I'll put that right at the end of the video. But that's pretty much it. I'll stop waffling on now. Thank you very much for watching this video. Tunbridge-Wells was a fantastic event. I do hope they have another one there, but I do hope maybe it's slightly better organised. I think it could be a fantastic event if it sort of worked all around for everybody. So yeah, hopefully they will do another one there, which I'll hopefully be able to get tickets for as a trader. Thank you for watching this video. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.